Good morning, St Luke's, and welcome to our daily Bible reading, looking at Exodus chapter 14 again, this time verses 19 through to 31. Over the last couple of days, we've read how of the plans that God has for the Israelites as they come to the shores of the Red Sea. And also then we have heard of the response of the Israelites. So we've read how God will act for his glory, and the initial fear of the Israelites actually intensifies the focus on God as the one who will and must act. And so the stage is now set for this showdown, if you like, between God and Pharaoh, the God of creation and an anti-creator in Pharaoh. God then adds to the drama by making a pause overnight. You can read it. It says, "The angel of the Lord, who had been travelling into the front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night the cloud brought darkness to the one side and light to the other, so neither went near the other all night long." It's all ready to happen now, and so it's worth reading the unfolding of the event itself. And I'm going to do that for us. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He made the wheels of their chariots come off so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing towards it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen. The entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea, not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. This is an awesome account of God's mighty deliverance of his people in the face of an unmitigated threat. Now, we must acknowledge that archaeologists, historians, biblical scholars and pastors all face considerable difficulties in regard to this event. Its date, its location, the numbers involved, and even the very truth of its occurrence have been and are questioned in different ways. There is much to be read and studied, way beyond the time of this little video this morning. The heart of it, though, comes down to this reputed anecdote. Now, there was a liberal preacher who was speaking at a Pentecostal church in the United States, and as he spoke about the crossing of the Red Sea, one man leapt up and shouted, "What a mighty miracle! The Lord taking all God's children through the deep waters." The preacher responded, telling the congregation that many scholars actually thought the Israelites were wading through marshland in just 6 inches of water. The same man immediately jumped up and shouted, "What a mighty miracle! The Lord drowning all them Egyptians in just 6 inches of water." Friends, it really does matter that this event actually took place. The precise details are less important. What is vital, though, is that we grasp how the Bible consistently presents the event as a mighty and miraculous act of God's deliverance, and the memory of which is to be passed on from one generation to the next in order that we give praise and glory to our God. To paraphrase some of Psalm 78 in a prayer for us this morning. The praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power and the wonders he has done. He divided the sea and led them through. He made the water stand firm like a wall. Let our praise be to this God of deliverance this day. who with a mighty arm and an outstretched hand does great things for us. Amen.